Just 2.8 kilometers wide at its narrowest, yet the Strait of Malacca is one of the most dangerous choke points on Earth. Nearly a quarter of the world's trade sails through this fragile artery, and for China, it's even more critical. Over 80% of its imported oil flows through this single stretch of sea. In 2009, China was already consuming over 8 million barrels of oil every day. By 2035, that number could double. But with this vital lifeline exposed, China's economy and the power of the Communist Party itself rests on a knife's edge. So what happens when rivals move to cut that artery? Let's find out in this video. Faced with this existential vulnerability, Beijing didn't wait for a crisis to strike. Instead, it launched a sweeping two-pronged strategy to bypass the Malacca trap. First came the Two Oceans strategy, a bold effort to reroute energy flows across land. In Myanmar, a pair of parallel pipelines now stretches from the port of Kyauk Phu to Yunnan province. Built in 2014 by CNPC, they deliver 440,000 barrels of crude oil per day and 12 billion cubic meters of gas annually, completely sidestepping Malacca. Simultaneously, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor emerged as another artery of resilience. Oil and LNG arriving at Gwadar port flow overland into China's Xinjiang province, chipping away at the stranglehold of maritime dependence. But Beijing's ambitions didn't stop there. What followed was the strategic construction of a maritime string of pearls, a network of deep water ports in Gwadar, Hambantota, Kyauk Phu, and more. These dual-use hubs serve as commercial outposts and potential military footholds, expanding China's presence across the Indian Ocean. To New Delhi, these moves weren't just about pipelines and ports. They looked like encirclement, strategic containment, or a tightening grip. India responded with resolve. Since 2017, its Navy has maintained mission-based deployments, permanent maritime patrols across critical choke points: the Strait of Malacca, the Bay of Bengal, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Bab el-Mandab. India's watch extends from the Seychelles to the Andaman Sea. Meanwhile, radar coverage has grown into a vast coastal surveillance web, stretching from India's eastern shores to allied territories across the western Indian Ocean. The Andaman and Nicobar Command, established in 2001, has evolved into a forward operating bastion, housing anti-submarine aircraft, warships, and rapid response assets. Its mission is clear: monitor and, if needed, disrupt Chinese movements. China may have believed it could act unchallenged. Instead, it sparked a coalition into action. The Quad, an alliance of India, the US, Japan, and Australia, shifted from diplomacy to deterrence. Joint exercises like Malabar and Varuna now routinely feature US attack submarines, Japanese destroyers, and Australian surveillance aircraft crisscrossing the Indian Ocean. Australia, in particular, has transformed its western maritime frontier. From the Cocos Islands to Stirling Naval Base near Perth, new facilities are rising to host long-range patrols and submarine deployments, all in direct response to Chinese surveillance ships skimming close to Allied communications cables. China, undeterred, pressed on. Strategic port agreements extended its reach into Sri Lanka, the Maldives, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. In several cases, these deals offered military access or usage rights, embedding Chinese influence around India's maritime periphery. Economic leverage became another tool. In Sri Lanka, unsustainable BRI loans culminated in the 99-year lease of Hambantota port to China, turning infrastructure into influence. Beneath the surface, Chinese research vessels mapped undersea topography, identifying acoustic corridors and optimal positions for underwater sensors, a silent preparation for anti-submarine warfare. Yet, these advances carry hidden costs. Growing resistance from indebted nations and civil unrest are beginning to challenge Beijing's regional narrative. India now finds itself in a high-stakes game. While China fears energy disruption, so too does India. A closure of Malacca by conflict, piracy, or natural disaster could paralyze India's trade routes as well. New Delhi's ambition to project power and counter China's naval dominance strains its defense budget and industrial capacity. Shipyards are pushed to the limit, maintenance demands are climbing, and strategic planners warn of a harsh truth. India, squeezed by China on both land and sea, must start thinking like an island nation and act accordingly. India's counter-strategy is quietly unfolding. Dubbed the necklace of diamonds, it mirrors China's pearls, establishing logistics and surveillance partnerships with France in Réunion, the US in Diego Garcia, the UK in Chagos, and regional allies in Mauritius and the Seychelles. Through Quad-driven intelligence fusion and ISR-sharing hubs like Gurgaon's IOR Center, India and its partners now maintain near-constant maritime awareness from the Gulf to Southeast Asia. P-8 patrol aircraft, UAVs and maritime radars form a seamless web of eyes in the sky and under the waves. Together, the Quad and its allies are financing the expansion of runways, refit ports and dual-use infrastructure, ensuring that no single power can seize control of Malacca or the Indian Ocean beyond it. China can build infrastructure, but it cannot manufacture goodwill. If the Strait of Malacca remains under multilateral patrol, backed by transparent governance and international law, China's supply routes will remain exposed to strategic deterrence. Meanwhile, anti-submarine warfare is advancing rapidly. Underwater drones, seabed sensors, and allied sonar networks increasingly track what once sailed invisibly beneath the waves. Public backlash in nations like Sri Lanka and the Maldives, where BRI deals have left economic wreckage, may soon force governments to pivot away from Beijing, shrinking China's operational space across the Indo-Pacific. China envisioned a smooth maritime corridor from Gwadar to Kyaukphyu, linking its economic heartland to energy-rich oceans. What it created instead was a chessboard. India, joined by the Quad and a growing chorus of maritime democracies, is not merely reacting, it is reshaping the game. The contest today is no longer just about ships and ports. It is about alliances, technology, political will, and who controls the story of the sea.